and Ford down to third. So Ford third and fourth, BMW fifth, then Porsche sixth, and then Ford seventh and eighth.
Yeah, so the two World Endurance Championship Porsches are out front with their celebration livery of the Porsche 70th birthday. Is there a colour for that, or a gemstone or something? It's not diamond, is it? Into the slow zone they go. By the way, the decision to livery those cars in the historic liveries from the 70s and the 80s was made in November. The board were told in February that that's what the team was going to do. The decision to do the garages and all the hoardings at the back of the Porsche grandstand was made a full 6 weeks ago. Fantastic. Somebody said, come on, we're going to have old cars in a modern garage. Let's go for this. And they went, yeah, OK, let's do that. And that's what I love about people who come motor racing like this. You know, they get it. They've got the passion. They've got the history. Not just Porsche, but not just Audi, but everybody, you know. There's people on the grid who are here for the first time who will be buying into this lock, stock and barrel.
Well, you remember when Bentley returned to Le Mans in 2001 and one of the cars got onto the podium and the drivers went onto the podium with, I think, their 1950s overalls.
Yes.
They changed out of their racing overalls now and put on the 50s stuff, which was the last time Bentley had been to Le Mans. Yeah. I thought that was a superb little touch. A touch to the past, but looking to the future.
Absolutely. You know, all car manufacturers have history, and that is part of what you are now. Same as all of us. Everything we've ever done is part of what we are now, good, bad and indifferent. But fans of Porsche, fans of Audi, fans of Ford, they remember the glory days, and it's really important that the manufacturers do too. You know, they don't play it, I don't think, particularly in a cynical way, but it's part of what your brand is, what you used to do. Right, back in front with our lead pair. Mike Conway ahead of Sebastian Buemi by a second at the last split. That looks like he may have got a little further away in the last one as they come to the line. Well, he's pulled out 6/10 on Buemi in the last sector alone. And the slow third sector, he pulled out another 2 seconds on Sebastian Buemi. So the gap goes up from 1 to 3 seconds first to second.
I wonder how he did that in a slow zone. I wonder whether he just hit the brakes that little bit later and gained a bit more. But you wouldn't expect you wouldn't expect Buemi to be had over that way. You know, he's a pro driver. To lose 2 seconds in that situation, it's pretty rare.
Yeah, it might possibly be that he.
I tell you what, it could possibly be
some hybrid earlier in the lap.
I tell you what might have happened. They might have got a car in between them.
Yeah,
and of course Buemi couldn't go for the overtake because it's about to come into yellow, and that car slowed down a bit more than he would have slowed down, and that cost him some time.
Yeah, and accelerated a little less quickly as well, so it's exactly right. Here's the view of Sebastian Buemi. And people might ask, they're in a car, why are they not using an open helmet? Well, because a full-face helmet is a lot more protective. And it's also
illegal
mandated.
It's also legal to use a full-face helmet as well.
Exactly. Alex Brundle out of the pit lane, having made a regular stop in the number 6 Ginetta. That car down in 17th place, or 8th in LMP1. And the other car, sister car, number 5, now has Leo Roussel at the wheel. That's completed 31 laps compared to the 34 of the leader. So it's 3 laps behind, 10% of race distance behind the race leader after its dramas. Listen to the sound of the BMW as it comes out onto the Mulsanne straight through Terre Rouge. That is the lead of the 2 M8s, Antonio Felix da Costa. Blowing by him is a pretty easy job in a straight line for an LMP2 car. But behind Antonio is Nick Tandy in that 93 Porsche. Now the 2 IMSA cars are in the regular white, black and red colours of Porsche Motorsport. They've still got the 70th anniversary logo at the front of them.
You talk about how it's so easy for a P2 car to blow by them. Just 2 years ago, though, it wasn't so easy. Yeah. You know, they had a full regulation change. They gained, what, 10 seconds a lap?
Yeah.
On where they were previously.
Well, they moved up from 450 or 450-ish to a full 650 horsepower. So the P2s with their new engine a couple of years ago, well, now they've got the Gibson V8. They are absolutely flying. Those are...
And it brings them that little bit closer to P1. And of course, the result was last year we almost saw a P2 car winning overall. So, yeah, it's good. And I think it was the right thing to do, because for too many years, the dice between a P2 car and a P2 car, trying to go by a fast GT car in the straight and not doing it, and then dive bombing and then contact and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think they're very well spread out in time, how it is now.
Yeah, for safety reasons alone, it makes a lot of sense, because as you say, you know, you're not constantly struggling to get by every GT car in the place. And the AM class cars, a lot of the time, are going just as quickly as the Pro class cars, because they're pretty much as quick in a straight line. They might have, you know, drivers that might not take that few hundredths of a second in every corner, but once they hit top speed, you know, they're only a year old, and not exactly ancient machinery. GT Pro leaders coming through. Lawrence Vantor in the pink car from Fred Makovici. Then Sebastian Bourdais, the first of the two Fords. Bourdais ahead of teammate Olivier Pla. Then looking a little further back, the red Ferrari's out of sequence, because the next car is the BMW of Antonio Felix da Costa, with Nick Tandy and Richard Westbrook behind him. Those three covered by 0.3 of a second. Louise Beckett, we're seeing lots of teams still in the garages. They never leave, do they? So they've got to grab their rest where they can.
Oh, there's so many of them. I'm fighting the urge to go and wake them up.
What you need is a water pistol and some quick legs, and you just wake a couple up at distance and then disappear around the corner, playing knockdown ginger with the mechanics. Yeah, you know, a lot of the teams already have, you know, little hammock seats out there for everybody. And there's no point waiting until you're absolutely exhausted before you start sitting down and being the hard man. You need to take the rest every single time there's not a car demanding your attention.
One thing I'd like to know and see is the release of the cars as they go green. So the green from that flag there. But I know from a race in Nürburgring on the Nordschleife, we have a lot of slow zones. They started there, in fact. Ours are 60k an hour. And you can have a situation where the green flag might be on a corner, or, you know, it's in a corner, and it's your judgment when that green flag is. And they can't really say, they can't tell by the meter that you are correct. That maybe by the nearest 5 meters. So there's always a little bit you can sneak. And if the drivers are wary of that, then they can just pull a little bit on other drivers. And a lot of these drivers do race at Nürburgring, and some of them don't. And therefore, I just wonder if it's something that they're able to just take advantage of.
The GPS technology here is very, very accurate. And
of course, at Nürburgring, we have a lot of trees everywhere. And it's not so accurate.
And so therefore, I think the chances to sneak a meter is possible. 5 meters is risky, and anything more than 5 meters, then it's penalty. Yeah. But I never ever did any of that in my career at all.
Yeah, I was about to
just thought about it.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about it.
No, would never have crossed his mind.
None at all.
No.
So
Keating Motorsport Ferrari there, the AM class car, Ben Keating, Rowan Blekemolen and Lukas Stoltz being cleared by our pro drivers as they get back up to speed.
Did we ever find out what happened with that car? We know it had an off earlier on. Was there a reason for it? Did we ever speak to Jeroen about that?
Do you know, I don't think we did. There's a job for Louise Beckett. If she can hie herself hither to Keating Motorsport, the WeatherTech crew, and see if you can find Jeroen Blekemolen, because he had a big moment, didn't he, going into the Porsche curves? A good point, about half an hour ago. Is that in the health and safety book? Did you write it down?
It didn't. Did it happen during our stint in here? I think it happened just before we got in here.
So Karun didn't write it down.
Yes,
okay,
Karun, yeah, he's to blame.
Yeah, well, they all clear him, but look at this, the Ford BMW battle, the Ford of Richard Westbrook leaps Antonio Felix da Costa, or jumps him, and now Tony Kanaan is right behind in 67, there with the blue mirrors, and coming down towards us with the green mirrors is the 68 car of Sebastian Bourdais. So looking back from 69, another BMW versus Ford battle. And in front is the number 90 TF Sport Aston Martin. Alan is excited to see the RFID, the tyre monitoring system at the pit exit. Now tells us who's on what.
Tells you the mileage as well that they're on. This is not necessarily so important at this stage of the race, but then when you have the crossover to a different tyre later on, when it goes into the evening, a stroke night when it gets colder, then that's much more important. And then later on in the day as well, if someone's trying to stretch the mileages on the tyres, then it gives us a very good feel for strategy, or the potential strategy there. Ford overtaking GT Am car. And now the Porsche just following it through. But this battle is so close, as they've now dropped in towards that slow zone again, all the way down here. And the problem they've got, Peter, you know this as well as I do, that they've basically been cleaning those tyres, loading the tyre, going through all of the corners up to that point. Now they're just running at 80 kilometers per hour, and the tyre picks up all the rubbish and dirt and other rubber that has been left on the circuit, and it just sort of builds up, and you get this thing called pickup, which then gives you vibrations. And also the other thing is your tyre temperature drops as well. As the older the tyre gets, the easier it is to lose the temperature, and more difficult it is to actually build it back up and get the grip back again.
Yeah, you're right. Tyre pickup is one of those situations where it kind of, sometimes you wonder, is that actually pickup, or have I got a problem with my tyre? And most of the time it is pickup, but it's that odd occasion when you actually do have a problem, you think it's pickup, and you think it's all safe, because nothing's going to happen when it just vibrates. But then occasionally you have a blowout, and the shock comes from nowhere. You're like, oh, what happened there? You no idea how it's happened.
So when they see the cars weaving left and right, it's predominantly to try to clear the pickup off the front of the tyre, front tyre I should say, than actually trying to put heat back into it, because that is the bigger issue. And the first time you get the braking point, that's the first time when you really feel whether you've got something there or not.
It's also important, you know, to keep on the racing line. If you go slightly on, like this car, he's going a bit too inside for my liking, and there could be a bit of extra rubber there.
Yeah, but bear in mind, he's trying to remind the AM-class Aston in front, get out of the way, get out of the way, I want to come through. There they go, green. He was a little bit premature about getting alongside him behind the
that's what I mean. He's sneaking just at that odd metre or so, and it should be fine. I would think that would be fine. It's just, as Alan said, it's when you start to take 5 or 10 metres, that's when they start to come down on you. Because of course Nick Tandy there, he wants to close up on that Ford, and he wanted that car out of the way as quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that slower car in between. We talked about what happened in the slow zone between the Toyotas, where the gap went out from 9/10 to 3 seconds.
So now the BMW and the other Ford are stuck up behind it, and they're losing seconds now.
You know, traffic is what it is. Sometimes you win, more often you lose. And the times when you get through cleanly, you probably don't punch the air with glee, whereas the times when you don't, like here, you get very frustrated.
They probably did the right thing, the TF Sport car, but just running straight and letting them by clean.
Well, listen, Sally Jolic isn't racing any of these guys and doesn't want to get hit. His race is to get to the end and try and win the AM class. That's all there is to it. Get out of the way of these nutters. First and foremost for Sally, not least because I'm paying for this and they're not. You know, so they're not deliberately going to try and hit him, and they want to finish the race and win their class as well. But his first job is, he knows he's got to not get involved in any accidents that they're having.
That's right. I want to see this onboard through here and see how wide we're going now. It's a lot on the inside. Yeah, it's just about safe, so that's perfect, I'd say. He's got his right wheels on the white line. That's allowed. You can do that.
You've got to have just a little bit of the wheel on the white line. Over on the curb is not deemed to be the track, so the white line is a differentiating factor. It doesn't matter whether it's a millimetre or a wheel or 2 wheels of half a car. It's as long as you've got something on the circuit, then you can argue. Beyond that, it's getting a little bit difficult.
Nick Tandy in the Porsche, trying to slip up behind Olivier Pla with the green screen. In fact, he's not. He's got ahead of Olivier Pla, hasn't he?
Yes.
And it's Sebastian Bourdais in front of him, and the Porsche starting to split the difference now. He's jumped away from Pla and starting close up. The slow zone has been removed, so it is now green all the way round the 20,970 baguette length of this track.
Just for info, you need to repair the element, the bearing system for the element of Stefan, because when he ran out of the car, everything went in place. So I had to remove the piece was on his tube and to put it on my pocket. So not okay for me, but you need to repair his element. Okay, thank you for the information.
There's a lot of attachments in terms of the radio drinks tube and things like that that are attached to the helmet, but obviously at the last pit stop, Sébastien Bourdais was just saying that when he jumped out, it pulled everything out of Pla's helmet. Sorry, not Olivier Pla, because that was
Bourdais.
Who was Bourdais talking about there? Who was in before?
Whoever was in before,
but anyway, he pulled everything out, and so he's got it in his pocket, but just make sure that you repair the helmet.
Who was in front before Bourdais? It was Dirk Muller. Now, slow zone has been repealed. However, speeds at the end of the slow zone are under investigation. I wouldn't mind betting it's the speed of a Porsche that we're on board with will be at least one of those. Down into Indianapolis at speed.
And of course, Nick Tandy is a very regular Nürburgring racer. And as I said, we do cheat a little bit there. And I just wonder whether it's in his mind to cheat a little bit, and you can't do it here.
Stretch the rules. Use the word stretch the rules.
Sorry, that was a bit strong,
No, be on it.
And I'll tell you
he
what,
was on it.
Someone that's on it now, this is a decent run, and he could, depending on where the Ford goes, if the Ford goes back to our right as we're looking at it, no, he's going to block him off from doing it. But the Porsche's got some decent straight line speed there.
Yeah. And Bourdais,
it's going to be a Porsche 1, 2, 3 pretty soon.
Bourdais making sure he kept.
Well, Bourdais not keen on that, so I wouldn't bet quite yet. In fact, he's pulled away a little bit. Nick's had a little bit of a moment through the Porsche curves, and Bourdais managed to just eke out a gap, and now Pla is right up behind him, so it's still anyone's.
And around comes the Ginetta. Well, Louise is mentioning that it is raining in the pit lane, but also she's got Jimmy Bruni.
Putting in a superb performance and a long old stint you had there, Jimmy. You're just putting your mark on your Porsche career, aren't you?
Yeah, of course. No, and we came after the first stint, the leading. We have some issue at the pit stop. I dropped like 5-6 seconds behind. We go for our strategy with double stint tires. I tried to catch the others. I was able to. But of course, the competition is very, very strong, as you can imagine, with this big field in Le Mans. So, but the car is running well, and I hope I can still enjoy and see tomorrow morning what's going to happen.
What happened in that pit stop? Because it is a busy pit lane. Everyone is really jammed close together.
Sorry?
What happened in that pit stop?
It was some issue with our strategy, how we do the fuel, and I have to wait 4 or 5 seconds. I was not able to restart, but it's okay. It's part of the race. I hope it's gone.
Yeah, let's forget about that one.
Yes, we try.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ford just overtaken the Porsche. There, 69 just slid past the Porsche, so it depends on the part of the circuit, it looks like, who's quicker where.
And that's part of the nature of this track, isn't it? Because it's the three timing sectors are basically 3 different racetracks, and you expect different cars to perform differently on different racetracks.
Yeah, but I tell you, whichever way it is, it's a good race.
Yeah. And we've got 21 hours and 41 minutes of this still to go, so... Although I was slightly worried that Jimmy Bruni saying, I'll wait and see what happens tomorrow morning. What? Hang on a minute. It's 20 past 5. What, is he off for 12 hours sleep?
No. He's meaning tomorrow morning what happens. Who's still in this battle?
Yeah.
Who's in the race? Yeah. Are they still in the position where they can actually start to think, right, crikey, this could be a race we could win?
See, I was thinking he was going to do about as little work here as Peter, so, you know, for his win. Battle with the Porsche right behind the Ford, and he can't find a way through.
I'm just checking the 3 seats here, and Le Mans winner,
Martin Haven.
Martin Haven, yes.
Anyway, green all the way down towards Indianapolis. 2 little kinks to come up. The first one is just coming up now into top gear, and they buzzed through that one, the second one, but this is where the Ford just drafted.
Yeah.
I had a lot more speed in the draft there.
Well, that's Westy getting a really good run down the Mulsanne, out of the chicane, and just slipping by Nick Tandy. So instead of being a Porsche 1, 2, 3, the 3 Fords have now got ahead of Tandy.
Yeah, I didn't see the exit of Tetra Rouge, but the speed difference there was just totally... Well, it's much more than it has been at any other time.
Yeah.
So suggesting to me that maybe Nick didn't get the best exit out of Tetra Rouge. Number 47, though, has just been reported to the stewards for overtaking in a slow zone.
That's Felipe Nasr, the new boy, one of 39 rookies in the field. The field of 60 cars, that's 2/3 of the cars, roughly, have got a rookie in. There's one all-rookie team, and that's the Malaysian crewed car. There's Nick Tandy, there's El Bamba. One with Nick Tandy and Nico Hulkenberg a couple of years ago for Porsche.
Oh, that's wide. That's very wide. 2 cars there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a different part of Le Mans.
Bamber also coming to Spa 24 hours. Black and white flag for the 91 car, Fred Makovic, for constant abuse of track limits.
That's the second time that he's been reported for that. So Makovic, that's 2 times that came up for him.
And again, it's not just coming up on our timing screen, it'll be coming up on the policing monitor on his dashboard, and the corner in question, he will be told which one it is. It'll say track limits, turn whatever.
I'll be watching Nick Tandy as well. Nick Tandy and Richard Westbrook, in fact, in that last corner, leaving Porsche cars.
Black and white flag, car 91 for abusing track limits. Black and white flag, car 91 for abusing track limits.
I was rather hoping he would be telling us at turn 8, because it is usually one repeated offence at the corner.
Yeah.
It may not have been, no.
May not have been, no, exactly.
That's the man that's just got it, Makovic. And Jimmy Bruni, Louise was just speaking to a little bit earlier on. That's the sort of thing from your point of view, if you're sitting in the pits. If you're in the car, you're fighting and you're looking at the car ahead of you and you're just willing yourself on. You're doing everything you can to actually catch him. Whereas if you're sitting in the pits, you think, oh my goodness, no, don't let it go away for something so silly. Let's not get a penalty for that.
And it's only really once you're in the middle of the corner that you realise, oh, I'm going to run a bit wide here. It's going to be absolutely fine, and I'm going to stick my foot on the gas regardless, but I'm going to run a bit wide, and I hope no one's really going to notice.
Yeah, I hope the cameras are looking the other way.
If Mako gets slapped, he won't be looking quite so happy, will he, with himself?
He's a smiley kind of character anyway.
Isn't he, though? Now then, it's not just the Porsche that Richard Westbrook's Ford is quicker than, is it? Because he's now caught up to and is all over the back of Olivier Pla with the green windscreen strip. They've done the same number of laps. You assume they therefore have the same amount of fuel on board and the same tyres. And as they come up behind the 98 Aston Martin, the AM class car, being driven by Pedro Lamy rather, he is poised to pounce.
I think this is a tricky part of the track to try to do it. You need a lot of help from the person that's overtaking, because you can
Pedro's
defend so
experience,
easily.
though.
No, I didn't mean actually Pedro. I meant from the point of view of the 2 Fords.
Actually, what it does point out is what we talked earlier about going by the AM class cars. That's not easy, because they're almost as quick as the best of the pros.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Yes, do that. Good pass. Got it stopped. Can he hold it on the exit? He does. That's kind of a motor racing block pass.
That's bold.
That
well
is
done,
very,
Westy.
very bold into there, because if he had snatched the left front, he would have gone into the gravel. So he did an extremely good job, but on a car which is in the sister camp, the safest place to do something like that is into the next corner, because it's a slow speed corner where you don't have a big shunt if you get it wrong.
Absolutely. But look, time's running out. There's only 21 hours and 35 minutes to get this done.
It's only 21 hours of the sprint race to go now,
And the problem is, you say, yeah, well, there is time, but actually...
No, there is time.
What was the gap at the line onto the last lap last year?
It was an excellent pass, but was it necessary at that particular point? It wouldn't have been the place that I would have thrown it down the inside. Maybe he's right, now I'm wrong, but
No. It's an instinct thing, isn't it? Every driver will judge it differently.
Something was on the racing line, and I touched something in jumping on the front right. Have a look for the splitter because maybe it's damaged. Copy, we are checking the data from the telemetry. It's going for the bonus as a 3 slide lap. Copy.
I think he said turn 3 there was something on the racing line. He hit it with the right front, checked the splitter at the next stop, and the engineer gave him the information about when the next stop would come up.
Yeah.
But it looks like if it's something there, it's probably one of the little flappy pylons or something like that.
That was on board with him that time. He really had a checkup before committing to the corner there. I think he's had his warning and he's taking it a bit more easy to absolutely make sure he makes it through there without running over that white line.
So it's Tête Rouge.
Yeah, that is. There's 2 corners that the possible warnings are going to come, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Again, look behind, nearly a lap later, how little they've dropped Pedro Lamy in that AM-Class Aston. In fact, the AM-Class Aston, best lap that they have produced is... where does it say best lap? It doesn't say. Their last lap. Okay, so Pedro Lamy in the AM-Class Aston, 3:59.3, and the Pro Cars, 3:54.7 and 3:54.3 for Darren Turner and Alex Lynn.
Just to sort of jump a little bit from this back to the LMP1 battle, just as a wee slight thing that's positive, as Rebellion Racing just did the fastest first sector of anybody on their in-lap. Now they've had a driver change, and Matthias Besch is in the car number 3 and gone back out, but they've got a bit of performance. And as the driver changes are now happening, it looks like there's going to be a driver change at Toyota with a rookie getting in.
Looks as though it will be the first racing lap for Fernando Alonso in his sports car career, as he hunts a triple crown, or quadruple crown perhaps. He's going to try and win here, Monaco Grand Prix, Indy 500 and be Formula 1 World Champion. So something that Graham Hill has done.
So Westy starting to eke away now from Olivier Pla.
Yeah, that's a view of the back of Richard Westbrook's car, and it is just creeping away slowly, isn't it?
Be interesting to see. I'm going to watch when he crosses the line what his lap time is, because he's just about a second slower than the Porsches in front, but he did make that move, that overtaking move. So if he can get himself into the 351s or 350s, then he could possibly close the gap up a little bit.
Here's the leader, Mike Conway, coming up to this battle to lap it once again. 5 laps ahead of this battle as we speak right now. Mike Conway in the 7 Toyota, the 4th car in shot, just behind the Porsche. Behind him is Stefan Sarazan, who has just been put down a lap. So now the Toyota of Conway, leader number 7, is now a lap ahead of the 3rd place car.
Yeah, as in fact is Sebastian Buemi, but that will go back a little bit. As the number 8 car, no, he hasn't quite got by him yet, has he? Although he has shown has scored on 40 laps and Sarazan only on 39.
Box this lap, pit comfort, fuel tires, driver change to Fernando, fuel tires, driver change to Fernando, and rear end change.
Rear end change, so that's the same as what happened before. Rear end change, you mean the rear wing, and that also is a little bit of the splitter at the bottom, but it's whole one unit that comes off. So he pops into the pit lane. You brake roughly the same point into the pit lane as you do onto the circuit, and then through a slower chicane, accelerate hard again, and then brake. That's when you have to bang now, be at 60 on the limiter. Start to make sure you get the belts ready, get the driver ID, also the radio unplugged, your drinks bottle unplugged, and prepare for a driver change.
Captain Kaiser on Twitter wanted to know why they don't just adjust the wing.
Because it's quicker to change the back.
That's what I said, but I wanted to hear it from a pro. It is quicker just to clip it off, clip it on, and it will be preset. Also, the rear wing in plates are very different. Previously, they were sort of square. Now they've got that sort of rounded leading edge to them. So there's more than just a wing adjustment there.
Yeah, they've been basically the whole car has been designed for plug and play effectively, and so therefore it is a quicker way to do it. Now you tend to not to do it so often through a dry race, but if you've got heavy weather coming in, you'll have a wet wing and a dry wing.
Doesn't look like it got changed, actually.
No, it doesn't, but it was also a pullback as well. And so with the car ahead of him, they had to pull the car back a little bit before he accelerated out on the electric energy. And then when they get up to about 60, it's about 58 kilometers per hour for these guys. When they get up to that, then they fire the engine up, and then it's on its way. But that car with Sebastian Buemi on the in-lap did the fastest final sector of anybody as he came in to hand over to Fernando Alonso.
That's quite impressive, since some of it was at pit speed limiter coming up to the line rather than going across the line at full racing pace. Of course, it is slightly quicker to come into the pit lane than zigzag through the Ford chicane, so maybe that makes up for that. It's not an Ayrton Senna Donington lap record by coming in the back door.
It was a very, very quick in-lap, a 3 minutes 28.421 for Buemi. So the actual in-lap itself was an extremely quick in-lap. Yep. The best I've seen so far was being 3:30, 3:31. So it was a very good in-lap by Buemi.
So last time round, Mike Conway came in 2 laps after Sebastian Buemi. Fernando Alonso out on track for his very first racing lap in this car. And the gap at the head of the GT field between the 2 Porsches is now a monster 0.6 of a second. 5 seconds back to the best of the Fords of Sebastian Bourdais. He's 6 seconds ahead of the next 3 cars, which are running basically nose to tail.
But if we have a look at lap times, Sebastian Bourdais has just under 3:50, whereas the guys in front of 3:51. So he's closed the gap slightly. He's only 5 seconds behind Makovic now. And as I thought, Richard Westbrook down into the 3:51s now. So holding station about 17 seconds behind.
Alonso up over the hump in towards Mulsanne. Heavily onto the brakes, turns in. You can see the white block there just above the E, which is the fire extinguisher. That big white block with all, it's for the tear-offs. So at certain stops when they'll pull one of those tear-offs, and it's like tear-offs on a standard visor in Formula 1 that they'll peel off, but it's for the whole windscreen. And then suddenly you can see again. It's quite amazing, especially later on when you get to what it's about, Peter. It's about 9 o'clock at night or something.
Twilight time.
And got little flies and midges and things like that, especially going down in towards Mulsanne corner. Like you can see it here through the windscreen actually.
Yeah. Justin Stanton wants to know what's the lap length in your standard merguez. Sausage, I couldn't possibly. It's not an imperial measurement, I'm afraid. Not a metric measurement. Baguettes are. Merguez is more imperial. Black and white car 92 being warned, the race leader. So the other of the 2 livery Porsches, or special livery Porsches, being warned about constant abuse of track limits. So Fred Makovic has calmed down a bit. Lawrence Vanthoor needs to do likewise. Fernando Alonso in the number 8 Toyota in 2nd place. Leader's now completed 42 laps and is not in the pits. Although the 47 Villorba course car that was so badly damaged in qualifying is in for a stop in the LMP2 class. And in fact, about half the LMP2 field is in. Andrea Pizzatola leads in G Drive's number 26 car from Will Stevens, who's in the pits. Francois Perrodo in 3rd. Andre Negrão just got out of the pits. So is David Heinemeier Hansen for Jackie Chan DC Racing in their number 34 car. And this is the Porsche that remains 2nd. This is the leader rather. This is Lawrence Vanthoor. And what I was saying a lap ago, the yawning gap 1st to 2nd was 0.6. It's now down to 0.3.
Car 92, black and white flag for exceeding track limits. Car 92, black and white flag for exceeding track limits.
That's 3 out of the 4 Porsches have been told they're naughty boys.
And it's early days. So yeah, just rein it back a bit, boys. The thing is, Vanthoor will get out of the car and the next driver will get in who hasn't driven yet, and then he's going to have exactly the same situation where he might just push the limits a bit too much as well and also get a warning. So they really have to be careful how many warnings come in for that car before the ACO or Eduardo is faced to with a decision on giving them a penalty or not.
Well, they then send that up. The FIA stewards will have a look at it. And they'll be the ones that will ultimately decide whether there is a penalty given. But we've already had the penalty for Tracy Crone in the 44 car. Not necessarily for the track limits, but that was for, I think,
I thought it was track limits.
Was it track limits?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it was. Sorry, it was a slow zone. It was Felipe Nasr that's been reported steers, and he's overtaking. So now down into Machiavecchi's overtaken Laurens Vanthoor, down into Indianapolis, into the right, slid down the inside. And so there's been a switch of the Porsches at the head of the field.
Thank you, Martin Haven. Early good evening, Alan, Peter. Turned up at the right time to see that change the leads. Coming up behind the number 80 AM car, that's Babini in the Ebby Motors Porsche. So it's the second and third car in line there as the number 7 Toyota, the car leading this motor race, comes into the garage. Mike Conway gets out of the car. Sliding in, that is Jose Maria Lopez, the Argentine, just getting in. One of those tear-offs that Alan was talking about a moment ago, being removed from the letterbox that is the windscreen on the front of the LMP1 car.
An absolutely blinding in lap as well. We talked about a 3:28 from Bourdais, 3:25.6 from Conway. They're pushing like mad. So now over to Lopez. The gap to Alonso is going to be on the out lap. Is going to be very important. And as we see that, remember Alonso had a pullback because there was a car ahead of him, so lost maybe about 1.5, 2 seconds. And so I would suspect that this car is going to actually come out in the lead, just but in the lead.
Okay, uses the electric power now. The internal combustion engine kicks in, and some 950, nearly 1,000 horsepower powers him up towards the chicane at the top of the hill. The tyres have been in the tyre tent, the oven. They're warm, but they're not up to full racing temperature quite yet.
Yeah, they'll be pretty much there. He's just got to be careful. And there's a little bit of work going on at the Porsche. That's the 92 car. That was the one that was leading, and Vanthoor in the pits. Bit of a pressure check there on the left rear, so he was maybe feeling a little bit of oversteer, cleaning up the radiators at the front. But just to come back to Lopez is 17 seconds in lead. What an in-lap by his teammate, but also a very clear out-lap as well.
So then, the number 92 makes his way back out onto the racetrack. Laurens Vanthoor in the 92. Going down pit lane, 60 kilometers an hour. That's just 36 miles an hour. As now it's unleashed and he gets onto the racetrack. We are just gone past 5:30 here local time in France at the Circuit de la Sarthe. We started the race at 3 o'clock here local time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Leading this race overall is the number 7 Toyota that's Jose Maria Lopez, from Fernando Alonso, who is just gone through the bottom of your shot. Leading LMP2 is a G-Drive from the Signatech Alpine from the TDS racing car. Those three are nose to tail pretty well. We're on board with the number 93 Porsche. This is Nick Tandy, outright winner of this motor race with the Porsche 919 a couple of years ago. He's in 4th position overall. This is the Core Autosports run, American run, Porsche 911 RSR. Through the chicane, and off he goes. So does Alan McNish. Thank you very much. We will see you later, sir. Alan McNish busying himself around the Le Mans paddock. Won this race 20 years ago for the first time of his 3 victories.
How many times have we... Oh, the 66 car coming into the pits. Hi guys, nice to be back.
Karen Chanduk, good evening, good welcome again, and also Julian Porter up here in the commentary box. Karen.
How many times have you reminded Alan that it's been 20 years since he last
Not enough is the answer. Not enough. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he's off making millions still, isn't he? So he's all right.
He's off to make the tea. He's off to make the tea. That's what he's doing at the moment. Okay, then I was getting around to this GT Pro lead. It's Machiavecchi from the 2 Fords at the moment.
Yeah, and it's well, I've had a wander around the paddock and spoken to some drivers and spoken to some people. So I spoke to Neil Yarni, by the way, about that first corner shunt, and he said they were really surprised with that little contact that Andre made with the Toyota, how quickly the nose popped off. And apparently Andre did make contact himself because he lost the downforce. So that's why when they pitted, he was concerned about the front suspension. But I believe there's somebody in the pits.
Yeah, Duncan has got Sebastian Buemi. Take away, Duncan.
I do have Sebastian. First of all, how was the stint out there? Because there was a few threats of rain now and again throughout the course of it.
Yeah, I don't think it affected the track at all. So it was quite fine. No problem with the rain. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen if the rain is going to come back again, but normally it should not, so it's all under control so far.
Yeah, a few threats of a few thunderstorms is maybe on the horizon. However, we saw you guys doing some testing in tricky conditions when you were out there and qualified. You guys have got some data there. Are you happy?
Yeah, we did some laps. You know, we took the opportunity to drive on the rain in case rain would come. Hopefully not, but yeah, we took the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Sebastian Buemi. 2 Fords in the... 2 Fords.
Yeah, 2
coming
Fords
in. 68 in. Here's the 66 car, the number at least, that won a couple of years ago. It's the 3rd year of the Ford GT program. Will they continue? There is a question for which there is not an answer at the moment.
No, just to finish up what I was saying before, the other person I spoke to were the guys at the number 37, the Malaysian guys, and they were really gutted. Ooh, contact. Wow, was that the 93 car running into the back of the Ford? So Nick Tandy making contact with the Ford at the pit entry. That was, not sure how that's going to go down.
It's as if the Ford slowed down too early and Nick was like, come on.
Yeah, well, I don't know why they would, but no, just on the Malaysian car, 37, we saw them stop with that engine temperature issue early on, and they're absolutely gutted because later on, Jasmine Jafar, once they got the car back up to speed, he set one of the fastest laps of LMP2 so far. He's done a 28.8, I believe, which the Jota guy said to me was, at the time, John-Eric Verne was the next quickest guy at 29, but we actually missed looking, unfortunately, that far down, and so yeah, they're really disappointed because they had the car and the pace, but their first time at Le Mans, they're learning about how hard and painful this place can be.
Yeah, and great to have that all-Malaysian trio in the number 37. That is an Orica, Jasman Jafar, Nabil Jeffrey, and we're on Tan. Let us not forget that the Sepang International Circuit, it's no longer having a Formula 1 race. The MotoGP is a massive thing for them out there. So with the Asian Le Mans series, maybe there's a bit of momentum with the whole Malaysian love of motorsport, the Asian love of motorsport for World Endurance Racing.
No, it really is. I mean, I actually spoke to Razlan Razali, the CEO of Sepang, before he did the deal and sort of, gave them the lay of the land, because he says, look, we're done with F1. And I met him for dinner in London, and he said, we want to invest in sports car racing. We want to have a Malaysian team at Le Mans. We want to invest in GT racing. We want to invest. So they're going to have a Malaysian GT team doing Blancpain later this year. They've got the passion for motorsport. They've just fallen out of love with Formula 1, unfortunately, because of the cost of it. So, the Asian Le Mans race, I think they loved having it there, and they're still very into the sport in general, aren't they?
I was at the Malaysian MotoGP last year. I have never seen so many people pouring into any circuit. And I've been to
They've got a rider as well, haven't they? They've got a rider in MotoGP now.
They have a rider in MotoGP in the Tech 3 team. So, yes. And in Moto3, they've been knocking on the door of some videos. So, yeah, it's the momentum is getting more and more and more.
Yeah, indeed. So, what's been happening out here, boys? So, Fernando Alonso, 13 seconds behind Jose Maria Lopez. The Besh car seems to be well established now, isn't it? Ahead of the S&P car, 35 seconds. So early on, obviously, Sarrazin was the man in 3rd place, but now that seems to have swapped around. In P2, big gap now, isn't it? Minute and 22. The leading G-Drive car now 1 minute 22 ahead of Negrão on the Signatec car. That's a big margin that's opened up in that little race there. and they've done an equal number of pit stops as well. So, yeah, that is quite a considerable gap that's opened up in that little battle.
Just something I noticed on the results screen before I changed it. Obviously, the 11 SMP car of Button and Petrov and Ashley is still in the garage being worked on. It was a loss of power is what they were reporting. So that's now way down the order and dropping down.
Yeah, it's a shame for them, isn't it? Because they, again, they've worked really hard, that whole team, after the incident in Spa, where the car had a frightening accident at the top of Radion, flew up in the air and destroyed pretty much everything on it. But you know, they've worked hard to get here, and it's a bit of a shame it's not quite worked out for them.
The Gulf Racing car's back on the track now, having been off, and it's now got a black and white flag for a track limit.
Ooh, here's a car cutting the chicane.
What are the AM cars? That's the WeatherTech car, the Keating Motorsport Ferrari 488, Keating, Blekemolen and Stoltz. It's already had a trip into the gravel at the Porsche curves with a very uncharacteristic moment that befell the Dutchman Blekemolen as the Ford guys look on. Meanwhile, in the BMW garage, BMW's currently in the GT Pro category. They are 6th and 8th over in the class, should I say, in the class.
I mean, GT Pro is still great, isn't it? We got the top 11 cars within a minute still, which is really good racing if you consider we've been going a bit of radio.
He's taking so much risk. Yeah, I think so. Just take it easy, the race will be on. No problem. I think you're right. There's all this narrow there to take risk.
Augusto Farfus.
I wonder if he's talking about his teammate behind him. No, but he's not. His teammate isn't behind him. So,
is he talking about the Ford that's in front of him?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe he's talking about Richard Westbrook in the Ford. So we've got 3 Fords in the top 6, 3 Porsches in the top 6. He's passing an AM car, isn't he? So
I was going to say, Karan, you know, it just goes to show that these AM cars are not much slower than the Pro car because they are a year old and they cascade down to the gentleman drivers, but they're still quick bits of kit.
They also have different restrictors. So I spoke to Jörg Bergmeister, who's in the Project 1 Porsche yesterday, and he reckoned it's about 1.5 seconds, the difference between an AM car and a Pro car. So it's not a whole lot, you're right, because really 1.5 seconds, you can see that easily, the difference between 2 AM drivers, couldn't you?
This is what he's meaning, isn't it?
That's what he means, yeah. So this was Westbrook versus Farfus at the first chicane, and good spot there, Julian, as they head up the hill. So this was the 82 BMW with Augusto Farfus on board, and he down the inside of the first quick right-hander, but then they obviously had the AM car around them, and Westbrook, he's to our left, and he's gone back around. I don't see what's the problem with that, really. I mean, I don't see why Farfus think that was aggressive. That was perfectly
correct.
Fine. I don't think there's anything to complain about.
Here are the 2 leaders in the GTE Pro category, the Porsche 956 lookalike at the front of that battle, and with the blue and the white and the Rothman stripes down the side.
Go on, say it. Say it. Say it.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was waiting for him to say something.
I am going to say it. The Truffle Hunter Porsche is in 2nd place, so I win on that one. I'm not going to say Pink Pig, just for the time being.
7/10 of a second between them, though. I mean, it's quite amazing, isn't it? What a battle. Yeah. 40 laps in.
I wonder,
coming up to 3 hours.
Yeah, I think they're still playing the game, but the fact that, you know, in that second stint, Ford were in amongst it, wasn't it? Ford were in between them, but they've managed to again redress the balance and get the Porsches up at the front. So we've now, yeah,
just missing the line a little bit.
You can get away with it because the track starts to rubber in now quite a bit. And that line is actually quite wide. It cleans up quite a bit because, don't forget, you've got a big field of drivers who are less experienced. You know, the AM cars and some of the LMP2 drivers as well. They do take a slightly wider line, so it cleans up. And this is a battle for position here. Tony Kanaan versus Jan Magnussen, and they're fighting for 9th and 10th place. And Kanaan has lost out. So Jan Magnussen. God, how many years has Jan Magnussen been at Corvette? He's been there a long time, hasn't he?
Not as many as Ollie Gavin, of course.
No.
But yeah, which is 2002. But yeah, you're right, Karan.
And we've got a yellow somewhere, a double yellow, in fact, at Mulsanne. So has somebody been off into the gravel. I'm sure our cameras will pick it up in a minute, but into the final chicane, right? Oh, it's cleared the yellow, so whoever's been in has been back out again, and we're on board the 67 Ford. I mean, this car's had a tough week, hasn't it? The 67 car. Out of the four Fords here, they've been the fourth of four, haven't they?
Well, the mechanics.
Yeah, but they were also off twice, weren't they? Prio put it into the wall, and then it got rebuilt. Prio did some more laps, and then Canan came out and swiped down at the S's, took the rear end, well, the side of it kind of out.
Yeah, real
front wing,
panel, wasn't it?
Front wing, yeah, that was, God, that seems like a week ago, and yet it was only 48 hours ago, which was final qualifying. We're back on board with that number 67 Ford. Brazilian Tony Canan at the wheel. That's 9th and 10th position. You're looking at that 9th place. Brilliant quality and clarity of picture. Looking through the windscreen of that Ford GT. A few of the first customers taking delivery of their Ford GT road cars, including Harry Tinknell. There is Derek Bell, 5-time Le Mans winner. Norbert Singer, the mastermind of Porsche Motorsport throughout the late 70s and through the 80s on the left-hand side, and Patrick Dempsey in the middle as the Ford of Tony Canan takes that 9th position away from the Corvette.
Jan will be pretty disappointed with that. Only worked hard to get ahead, and you'll see a whole load of P2s coming up behind.
Yeah, and Lopez is in there as well. Here comes Lopez in the middle of them.
And to the left is the Hendrik Hedman LMP1 car, the Dragon Speed car. So it's all kicking off behind. Look at that. We've got LMP1s, LMP2, the Rebellion cars in there as well. And the Ford
trying to pick up a slipstream.
If motorsport looked like piranhas, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
All over the top of each other, trying to get through. Brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. But that's the thing about Le Mans, isn't it? It's not the speed that a professional driver has to get to. It's lapping the different, slower cars that guys have got to get used to. Now then, Duncan Vincent is down there in the pits, and he's got a 2009 Formula 1 World Champion with him. Duncan.
I've got the 2009 Formula 1 World Champion, Toby, as you say, but Jensen, we're standing in the pit lane, you're not ready to go in the car, there's a lot of commotion in the back. Can you give us an update on what's happening and where things are?
Not really. I mean, the issue is a sensor, again. That's been our only issues this week, is sensors, and this is a different one. So, yeah, we're 30 laps behind the lead car at the moment. So, yeah, if we get out, I think it's turned into a test day for us. You know, I don't really have much experience of driving around Le Mans and also the car. So at least I get to test the car and get a bit more acquainted with it before we head to Silverstone. That's you know, scarily, that's where we are right now. But 30 laps behind is a long way.
Information to the pit lane. Information to the pit lane. Car 64 lost a piece of the flat bottom at MP20 on the apex. Car 64 lost a piece of flat bottom at MP20 on the apex of the turn.
Jensen, thanks for staying there. The race director's talking about a bit of car that's been left lying on the track. I mean, it looks like it's in a really hard to get position here. So 30 laps down already. It's good to see that you're still smiling on you guys in the team. You know, Vitaly Petrov just come around there in his civilian clothes. Still smiling, everything good?
Well, I'm still alive, so that's always positive. And we're here to go racing, which is what we love doing. But yeah, it's just a shame that we're not in the race anymore, really. But still fun watching it, though.
I'm going to come back and see you once you've driven it, okay?
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Well, I can hear in Jensen's voice, as cheery as he may sound, he's
fed up.
He's just had everything taken out of him, and he hasn't even put his balaclava on, let alone his crash helmet.
Oh, it's awful. It is. You know, I've only had that at a short 6-hour race where, you know, we were out of the race even before I got in the car. My teammate had a collision and damaged the car, and we were out. And it's so deflating because you've been there the whole time. You've all put in the workload. You've qualified the car. You're pumped up. You're ready to go, and then it's just poof. You know, the wind's been knocked out of you through no fault of your own. And in this case, it wasn't the fault of none of the drivers. So it's just it is a really deflating feeling. So yeah, tough for him.
And, you know, for Jensen, you know, he's travelling the world. Blimey O'Reilly, you know, he's living in LA. He's done 2 pre-season tests and 3 races in Japan in the Super GT Championship. He's come over to drive the car, this LMP1 car at Magny-Cours. Then he goes back to LA. Then he comes back. Oh, yeah. And then this happens.
That is tough, yeah. And we see here Kevin Estre. Sorry, no, not Kevin Estre. Lawrence Van Thor in the Kevin Estre car, right behind Fred Makiewicz. Are they actually racing for position, or no? They're holding station. But I think Van Thor is sending Makiewicz a bit, and the team, a bit of a message to say, come on, I can go quicker than this here. Let's lift our game a bit, because they're still not 100% clear, are they? You know, Bourdais in the 68 Ford, still under 9 seconds behind the leader.
That gap is getting bigger, though, because when I last looked a lap or so ago, that was 7 seconds. So they are going away from the Fords, but obviously the pink pig wants to go a bit faster than the blue one.
If there's a big long shot, we'll get the top 3 in the same television shot down a long straight. That, as you say, guys, that 8 and a bit seconds is not that much. I'm not fully au fait with NASCAR, but if 2 cars are together, does the car in front actually, does it help the car in front as well if you really get up close?
No, I don't think the benefit for the car behind is significantly more. And I think, if anything, all it does is distract the car in front. But also in the corners, it costs them downforce. So it might help the car in the straight, I agree, but it costs them rear downforce, because the flow coming off the back wing isn't clear. And you're right, like in NASCAR racing, where they're flat all the way around on a big super speedway, it might help their straight line speed. But here, we've got a lot of corners.
Yeah.
And also with those big white lights, I can't imagine it's not distracting to have you know, even though you know it's your teammate, and maybe they've got a team order going on that they're not going to overtake or race at this point. It can't be pleasant having that car sitting on your bumper.
Yeah, not only looking through the windscreen, you're looking at the mirror or the television screen that is purveying what is going on behind you. There goes the number 8 Toyota. That's Fernando Alonso. He's in 2nd position to the tune of 4 seconds behind Jose Maria Lopez. He's 4 seconds a lap quicker than Lopez.
But he caught them in a good place.
So let's catch up with what Alonso's got to say.
Yeah, Fernando, brilliant through the traffic on the last lap, as you say, gained 4 seconds. I don't think that's a case of 4 seconds every lap, but certainly on the last one, through the traffic, we didn't see, maybe Lopez caught the cars in a bit of an ugly spot. You know, if you catch the cars at the Porsche curves, if you're in an LMP1 car, you're stuffed. So, you know, in the situation, it'll ebb and flow, won't it? Because as the race goes along, they are now nearly a lap, actually. They're close to putting a lap, guys, on the Rebellion. So the Toyotas we're 3 hours into the race, and we're nearly now a lap ahead. The 2 leaders are now nearly a lap ahead. So that's what we're sort of looking at, is every 3 hours, they're just going to sneak up another lap on the privateers.
2 Porsches with the data at the bottom of your screen. 250Ks is about 150 miles an hour. 300Ks is 186 miles an hour as they build the speed. The lights ablaze over the crest, the heat haze. It's not boiling hot here, and certainly not as warm as 12 months ago, but it's warm enough for that reflection and the different colour on the race circuit with the rubber that's been laid down as they come into the 2nd chicane on the back straight. Now build the speed, the revs rise, that flat 6 howling away. The echo through the trees will be just fantastic. Signatech, the LMP2 cars, there's an LMP1 car, the Dragon Speed car a little bit further back. That is in 6th position overall. The white car with the Evel Knievel blue star and white stars down the spine of the car as they now come out of Mulsanne and go towards Indianapolis. 4 different classes of cars in one shot.